Derek Gherkin,
Present.
Terry Lapp, here. Trish McLean,
Present.
Todd Schneider,
Here.
Lauren Sharp,
Present.
Melissa Smits,
Present.
Connie Weingarten.
Present.
If you all stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next item on the agenda is approval of the previous minutes.
I'll move we approve.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve the minutes. Any discussion? Okay, seeing none, roll call.
Derek Gherkin,
Aye.
Terry Lapp, aye. Trish McLean,
Aye.
Todd Schneider,
Aye.
Lauren Sharp,
Aye.
Melissa Smits,
Aye.
Connie Weingarten.
Aye.
Okay, motion passes. Next item on the agenda is approval of the agenda and any agenda changes.
Derek, or Mr. Gherkin, we have one change. We're going to move the intergovernmental agreement presentation by Chief Paul Schultz. He will follow the teacher introductions,
Okay.
as long as he does a good job.
I move we approve the agenda with the change mentioned by Dr. Yannick.
Second.
Okay. Have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Okay, seeing none, we'll proceed to roll call.
Derek Gherkin,
Aye.
Terry Lapp, aye. Trish McLean,
Aye.
Todd Schneider,
Aye.
Lauren Sharp,
Aye.
Melissa Smits,
Aye.
Connie Weingarten.
Aye.
Okay, motion passes. Next item on the agenda is new teacher recognition. And so what we'd like to do is have everybody introduce themselves and tell us something fun about yourself. We were thinking maybe your favorite sports team. So if we could just have you start with at the front table and if
Can you have to
if
speak
you'll
in the
have to come up
microphone?
Yes.
You can't cheat. Can't cheat.
You guys can just...
Yeah, if you could kind of line up,
Yeah, we
just
might
kind of
have to.
expedite it.
Can I go?
Please tell us where you're teaching
Wait,
as well.
Haley, 1 second. Just 1 second, please. 'Cause- All right, Haley, you're okay.
I'm Haley Lipsock. I teach at the high school, special education teacher, and I guess the Denver Broncos because I live in here.
Hello, I'm Linnell Jameson, and I'm teaching English at Fort Morgan High School, and the Broncos are my favorite team as well.
You're here.
Hi guys, I'm Kaylee Jonick. I teach at the high school Freshman Academy English. I have to say Kansas City Chiefs.
Who hired
Have you been evaluated yet?
Hello, I'm Mariana Degami from the Philippines. I teach at the middle school, Fort Morgan. And because they said they love Broncos, me too, I love Broncos.
Smart.
Hi, I am Jessica. I am a SPED teacher from the high school as well, and I'm also from the Philippines. And yeah, I agree with them as well.
Hi, I'm Meredith Simpson. I am a third grade teacher at Columbine. I don't really have any favorite sports teams. Any team that's purple, my favorite color.
Nice.
There's a few to choose from.
Let's hope a purple team wins tonight.
My name's Leanne Sappington. I teach 7th grade math at the middle school, and I don't really follow football, so I'm going to say the Slaughterhouse Dairy Girls. Woo!
I'm Krishana Crow, recently got married, so some of you might have seen my paperwork as Wisebeck. I teach 2nd grade at Green Acres, and I married into a Nebraska family, so if I don't say Nebraska, they might be really mad at me, so probably Nebraska Cornhuskers.
Congratulations.
Hi, I'm Crystal Becker, and I teach first grade at Green Acres and CSU Rams.
Hi, I'm Mary Gardner. I teach fourth grade at Pioneer, and I am a Green Bay Packers fan.
I'm Linda McKelvey. I teach at Green Acres first, second, and third grade intervention. I'm going to say I'm a Denver Bronco fan, but really for me, the most fun is I am a Fort Morgan graduate, and I've returned home after 30 years, and I'm happy to be back home.
I'm Kelly Bellander. I'm the school counselor at Green Acres and Baker, and born and raised a Broncos fan. I'm not allowed to like anybody else, so.
That's good upbringing.
Hi, I'm Lucas Lotz. I'm a teacher in high school for English language learners. I'm from Illinois originally, and I'm a St. Louis Cardinals fan.
Hi, I'm Regina Holmes. I'm over at Columbine teaching fourth grade, and I thought this week we were supposed to say we were Fort Morgan Mustang fans.
That's right. That's your question. You got it right.
I'm Amy Quinlan. I also work at Columbine. I'm a special education teacher for first through third grade. And I just moved from Michigan, so even though they suck, I'm going to say the Detroit Lions.
Cameron Dowdy. I'm at Pioneer Elementary. I do reading intervention, and I'm going to say Wisconsin Badgers.
Bella Hepke-Laws, Columbine, fourth grade, and football makes my head hurt, so the Denver Nuggets.
Hola, mi nombre es Lorena Pagan, soy de Puerto Rico, estoy en el programa de Dual Language Immersion in Columbine. My name is Lorena Pagan, I'm in the Dual Language program. I'm from Puerto Rico, and I'm not a football fan, sorry.
It doesn't have to be football, right?
My name is Aaron DeLay. I am sixth grade literacy at Fort Morgan Middle School. This is my first degree. I graduated from Metro in June, and I love the Avalanche and playing hockey when I can.
Nice.
Hello, my name is Lisa Conti. I am the school counselor over at Columbine and Pioneer. I think my favorite team to watch is my 5-year-old son's soccer team.
Oh, yeah.
Hi, I'm Sarah Roscoe. I'm at Columbine teaching ELL, all grades. And I don't have a favorite football. I go more for soccer, Mexico team.
I'm Stacy Bell, and I teach 6th grade social studies at the middle school, and my favorite team is the Mustangs.
Thanks.
I'm Ariana Eigner, and I teach first grade at Baker, and my favorite team is the San Diego Chargers. Los Angeles now, but San Diego Chargers.
I'm Molly Kleber, and I teach first grade at Baker, and my favorite team's the Broncos.
Hello, my name is Danielle Lowry, or Maria, and I teach special education resource over at Baker, all of them. And my dad's favorite team is the Dallas Cowboys, so I guess I'll go with that one.
Hi, I'm Rachel Welson. I'm one of the gym teachers at the middle school, and I'm from Minnesota, but I'm a Packers fan and a Wilds fan.
Sorry, Rena.
I'm Tanner Campbell. I'm one of the PE teachers at the high school. If you can't already tell, I'm a little underdressed. But I'm a bigger baseball fan, so let's go Mets. I'm a big Mets guy.
Good evening. I'm JC. I like the music of Johnny Cash. And I try to walk the line as well. Juvenal Cervantes, and I have the best job in Fort Morgan, and that is teaching about 35 or 40 newcomers at the high school, and feel extremely supported by administrators and staff. It's been extravagant. Happy to be here.
welcome to all the new teachers. We're glad to have you with us. Our next item on the agenda is the intergovernmental agreement between the Morgan County School District and City of Fort Morgan.
And you're
Should we
welcome to
tell
come
them?
every time.
You can take cookies on your way
This may
out.
be the time when you want to leave.
But you're welcome to stay.
But you're welcome to stay.
But you're welcome to stay.
Like the rest of us do. This is where we're jealous of it.
They're all nice ways now.
Now, let's just hope the principal stays. Which one's going to bring us cookies? Bye.
Good choice.
But nobody picked the Oregon Ducks.
That's also a good choice.
Nobody said anything about the Rockies. Kind
Yes.
of the cool thing right now, you know. But
Yeah.
You're on. You're up.
Well, good evening, members of the board. My name is Paul Schultz. I'm Chief of Public Safety here at Fort Morgan. And I'm here to make a proposal to you this evening for a second school resource officer. We started this discussion a few months ago in a exploratory manner to determine if there was mutual interest between the City of Fort Morgan and the school district, and appears to be quite a bit of interest on both sides. Our City Council unanimously endorsed the idea a couple weeks ago at the City Council meeting, and they've asked me to appear in front of you tonight to answer any questions you might have and to solicit your support to create a second school resource officer position and assign that position to the middle school. And I've got some data here that I think supports the need for that. And we would also, in addition to soliciting your approval for a second school resource officer, we would like to make an adjustment in the intergovernmental agreement to a 50-50 cost-sharing basis from currently a 60-40 with the city paying 60%. And in a nutshell, our current school resource officer, Tim Malone, we think, and I think you would agree, is doing a fine job, has been a school resource officer for many years here, and is very busy and primarily spends his time at the high school, but often shares his time at the middle school. And we think that in 2018, nationally, there certainly exists a need across the country in communities our size and in middle schools of our size for a second school resource officer. So I'd be glad to answer any questions you might have or discuss it with you, but basically that's what we're here to do tonight, is ask for your support for a second SRO.
I'm just curious about the conversation we had last winter or spring was more in regard to somebody that was going to be a part-time position in the elementary schools, more of a support. Can you just speak to kind of where that went and how we ended up with this?
Sure. We had somebody that we thought was a very good fit for that, somebody who was interested in that position, and that opportunity left us. And that position was advertised with the city. We didn't have any applicants. So we think this is a better fit, a more accurate fit, a better need for what we are currently experiencing. Not to say that, honestly, sometime in the future, we might not revisit that, but I think our focus today is on a second SRO, sworn officer in uniform at the middle school.
Thank you.
Paul, our chief, just to follow up. You know, as you talk about an SRO for the school district, I mean, what sort of roles do you see an SRO completing? Because my understanding of an SRO, and just in addition to the safety component, is trying to establish some real positive relationships with kids and present a real positive picture of policing and develop good relationships. And with that as an expectation, because I think that is an expectation that you folks hold, would not there be an opportunity for that person to serve part-time at the middle school and then also service our other elementary schools?
Absolutely. Let me talk about the philosophy first, and then we'll get into actually where that person would be assigned and how that would work. I agree with you. I view the role of an SRO as a very large, role in the community and in the school world, if you will. Someone who is a guardian, obviously, at the school, someone who is a good role model, a coach, a mentor, a protector, somebody that can teach children the right way to do things that might fall into their purview. Certainly a person who would act as, again, that coach and mentor role. Also, when appropriate, involved in what we call LRE, law-related education. Something that a police officer should know is how the laws of the state and the city work, and how our police equipment works, and that might be something that they would cover inside a classroom if invited by a teacher. So I see it as a very broad role, somebody as a confidant to the youth, and somebody to help them through that transition of going from middle school to a high school. I think we have drug issues in our community. We can certainly document that, and I think this would be someone who would do their best to prevent drugs from getting a foothold in the middle school. So I see their role as truly multifaceted. They would not be necessarily totally permanently stationed at the middle school. Their primary assignment would be the middle school, but they would also be able to assist anywhere else in the school district where needed. So I think that there's a very likelihood that they would be called to an elementary school. I know Officer Malone now, primarily stationed at the high school, gets called not only to the middle school but to elementary schools also. So I see them working together, and honestly I see what I refer to as a synergistic effect. I don't think it's going to be a double improvement. I think it'll be more than a double improvement, because I think both Officer Malone and the new school resource officer will be working together and have a terrific outcome. I think our community would benefit tremendously by it.
Derek, excuse me, Mr. Durkin and Board of Education members and Chief, I know this is just informational this evening to the Board of Education, but I would like to have the chance, Chief, prior to our next meeting, and I know we meet right away in October, early October, and then we meet about a month from now. But I would really like to have the opportunity, Chief, to sit down with you and our elementary principals and our middle school principal on this idea of having the school resource officer have a commitment in their working day to be part-time on a regular basis in our elementary schools. And in a second piece, I'd like to talk with all our administrators and you about is just looking at the actual duties of those positions and seeing, I know one thing we're trying to do just with every step that we're taking this year is really look at how we've been doing things in our district, no matter what we've been doing, and just seeing if we can't look at it with new eyes and look at it through a continuous improvement model, and seeing if we can't. And I think that I guess what I'm trying to say is I think the potential for a second resource officer, for the good they can do for our community and for our schools, is, sky's the limit, I think, if we go out and plan well on it. And that's what I'm asking the board, if we, and maybe that's a month, Chief, maybe that's a couple months of planning, but I'd really like to come back with a robust and a new look at that position. Again, I see a lot of good with it. I would just like to see if we can't be more expansive with it for all of our kids. Is that fair?
Oh, absolutely. We're glad to assist you with that.
Could I ask, why is it that you're asking us to step up to 50% of the payment?
That's, in my experience, the common cost basis breakdown. I've done several of these in other school districts, and that's usually what the amount is. We can, when you break it down by percentage in the course of a year, where the officer is at and the amount of time they spend during the summer getting ready for the school year, it's more closer to a 50% split.
Well, we appreciate you coming out tonight and giving us all the information. Are there any more questions? Okay.
Well, thank you. I look forward to hearing from you, and we can discuss this further.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. I appreciate it. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
So, Dr. Frasco?
Good evening. Would you, Dr. Hammock, thank you. It's south. I had to ask. Make sure. So basically tonight, thank you to all the principals that are all here. We have been digging deep into all of our achievement and growth data, and I told you that once we had all of our school performance frameworks together, that we would do a presentation to the board, so here we are. You have all the school performance frameworks in your board docs. I'm happy to walk through every single one of them individually, but I'm really going to highlight, first of all, at the district level, and second of all, kind of taking what we have worked on as an admin team so far this year and talking to you about how what steps we are taking to move forward. So overall, it was a little disappointing to me, not to be honest, as a district. We are now accredited with improvement, and I would love to say that, next year we're going to be up in this distinction category with all the hard work that we've done. So just a reminder that there are 3 indicators that we utilize on district performance frameworks, and those encompass the 3 indicator ratings right up here at the top. However, post-secondary and workforce readiness is only given as a rating, they're only given scores at the high school level. And so if you scroll down the page, what you will notice is, of course, the good news for us is we are meeting the accountability participation. That hasn't proven to be a challenge for us, like it has many other school districts in the state about parents excusing. If you notice, we had 1 parent excuse last year for not taking the assessment. So for me, that's kudos to parents that are just saying, yes, we're going to go in and take the state assessment. Overall, this gives us the rating on the first page of just overall where we're at district-wide. And then every following page gives you our overall ratings kind of at all the elementaries put together, the middle school put together, and the high school put together. Now keep in mind, we just got our alternative education campus framework on Wednesday, Vicki? And so that was kind of difficult because as we did work as an admin team, we were still awaiting Lincoln's results. And so that data is also included in the district performance framework. So a couple highlights on the district. As I would always look at, and I've said this many times, probably to this group, and I'll say it again, to me, growth is more important than overall achievement, because growth is looking at the kids who are taking the assessment. It's apples to apples. And so while we're approaching growth in academic overall, this includes at the elementary and middle and high, it actually includes ELA and math. And so I would love to see all the growth factors as meets. We're meeting growth at the middle school. However, if you notice at the high school, we're not meeting growth. And another reminder that we keep changing assessments at the high school level. And so they have done this, these psychometricians who are really awesome at data analysis took all the data from CMAS in 8th grade and actually calculated growth to PSAT 8-9, which is a completely separate system. They did that, some magical formula that they said they'd share with me, and I wouldn't understand anyway. So, but we're not meeting growth, and so that was kind of a red flag for us, especially at the high school level. And stop me anytime you have questions, because I'm just going to kind of roll through this. So every framework kind of looks similar. It goes through academic achievement at the top and then academic growth. Keep in mind that at the elementary level, the only grade level we have science in is 5th grade. We only test science at 5th grade, 8th grade, and 11th grade. And so that is really hard for me. You don't get any growth. And so that's kind of difficult. It's even as a science teacher, that's really hard. It's like, well, I'm looking from year to year, and you don't really have year to year. You can just look at cohort or group to group. So a couple things that stick out here for achievement is we are not meeting achievement for students with disabilities. In growth, we are approaching for students with disabilities. And then the new calculation here on all of our frameworks, and we didn't have it for a few years, it has to do with English language proficiency, and the reason for that we didn't have it was because Access changed their assessment, so we weren't getting growth and we weren't getting these measures. And for us in Fort Morgan, as you know, that is a very important calculation for us. Now you will notice it has 0 out of 0 points, because while they're giving points for English language proficiency, they are not giving points for this other important calculation on track to English proficiency. So I'm anxious to see what that will do for our frameworks next year, because next year they're telling us what our calculation is this year. They're just not giving us points, but 74.8% of our kids are on track to being proficient. I think that's a pretty good percentage at the elementary level. So I'm curious to see how that might change things. Anyway, at the middle school level, if you notice, English language arts, we're definitely meeting achievement, approaching in math, approaching in science. But the nice thing at the middle school level, and we saw this kind of across, they are definitely meeting growth in English language arts, approaching in math, and again, at English language proficiency, they are meeting the amount of kids who are growing there. The high school is, we definitely have some work to do with the does not meet category for both achievement and growth. This was interesting to me on students with disabilities. We actually met from PSAT to SAT, we met that growth category. Now that end count was pretty small at 40 students, but we still got a calculation to meet, so that was actually pretty good celebration for the special ed department at the high school. And then again, ELP down here, they're actually approaching. Now the other categories down here for post-secondary and workforce readiness have to do with just, again, they use SAT again as a post-secondary and workforce readiness. That's fine, so the same kind of calculations. But then our dropout rate, and we've seen this has kind of been stable for us at 3.5%. I would love to say that we are going to be much less than that this next year, working on recapturing some of our students. And then the matriculation rate, we can argue till the end of the day about how they calculate matriculation, but they calculate it based on kids who are entering a 2-year, 4-year, or career and tech ready or tech education program. The big question from high school teachers this year that I heard was, why not military? And yes, we've argued that with the state level to say, so they said, that's fine, you can submit that. You just have to submit every single enlistment form that you actually receive. And so last year we had this big debate about whether or not we would do that. We didn't feel like we had enough students to make like a category change differential, and so we chose not to do that. And the other piece for the, I always consider it kind of a wonky calculation, but the graduation rate is they take like the best of 4, 5, 6, 7 years, and so now this year we took the 5-year. That doesn't mean that that was not our rate from our graduating seniors from last year. They do this 5-year calculation, and of course I would love to see any calculation at 100%. So we're definitely having to work on our graduation rate. Questions so far? So I'm not going to scroll into every single one. So if you know that the district performance framework scoring levels are a little bit different than the schools. So if you look at Baker's, I'm going to just highlight Baker, and I'm going to highlight a couple other schools, because Baker, if you remember last year, they were in priority improvement, and they made a lot of changes last year, and they have been super successful in achieving a lot of growth in their points overall. If you notice, they're like 0.6 away from being in performance. So I'm going to let you know right now that we are going to appeal this rating. We
you can appeal ratings if you think you're going to move into a different category, and you can provide the state with localized measures of assessment. And so Mr. Cooper has been furiously working on capturing a whole bunch of data, and so I just had the whole nod this just before the meeting on let's go forward, because the worst thing the state can do is say, no, we're not giving you any more points. Okay, but great success, and Baker should have celebrated that they earned more points. Just to highlight the other schools, Green Acres actually stayed in performance. They have been really steady the last couple years, and if you remember a couple years ago, they were in improvement, right? 2 years ago? Were you in improvement? And then you moved up a level? No, we were like close. And so the performance is the highest level you can get, but we talked to principals about this. I'll use, I guess I'll use the middle school as an example. But, so they're still in performance at 58.8 points. We had a really long discussion about, so just because you're in performance, we don't want to get too like, woo, that's great news. But if you look at, it goes up to 100 points. And if we're not close to 100 points, then we have work to do. So we had really great conversations just around middle school still in performance, Pioneer is still in performance, and Green Acres, and Sherman. And Sherman, remember, we do our own calculation for them based on our own little formula. But also highlighting ELA and math as a whole. So they moved up to performance. They were in improvement last year. And then Columbine fell to priority improvement, and so that does put additional pressure on making sure that some data is analyzed even a little bit more, and making sure that their plan will actually be due in January. So Nick is working really hard with his staff, as well as Simone as the instructional coach, to make sure they're really digging really deep into their data to figure out what went on, why did we see this dip in performance. And then the other school that we just got today was Lincoln. And they are on a completely different framework system, and we are appealing this for sure, because the data that Vicki has looked at does not match the data that is in this framework. And part of the I guess special thing for Lincoln is Vicki actually has to submit data in a separate system, and they utilize that data. They have optional measures that we can put in. So if you look down on their page 2, I guess, so we use NWEA for them. We use it 3 times a year. Her and I went through these percentages. They absolutely do not match. I think we have some suspicions on where they mixed up where they were supposed to put things from the state level, but we didn't get it until the day after we were at a training for alternative education campuses, so we couldn't debate right front and center to these people from CDE, but there are definitely some things that don't look right, and so we do feel like even if we didn't move a rating, which I am hoping that we can submit to the data some additional measures, and those will be due by October 15th. Okay, so let me just capture it in a nutshell. We have been doing some really awesome leadership work so if I kept them hanging up because I want you to, we've been hands-on, digging into the data, doing root causes, and one of the things that surfaced fairly quickly was math. Math overall. We need to know what is going on, why are we not across the board seeing math achievement and growth. And so we have made that a primary instructional focus. And so all the administrators worked in teams by their schools, and we did a nice fishbone diagram. Dr. Hammock's fish, I'll just point out, was very lovely on the bottom there. But we definitely focused on what is, when you do a really good root cause analysis, you really focus on what is in your control and what is really adult-centered. So there are a lot of factors, that are out of our control and that are student-centered. And those are not the reasons of a root cause on why we're not doing well in math. It has nothing to do with our population of students. It has nothing to do with some of the reasons that were put up here. So we started crossing those things off. Is it, like some of the ideas that came up, is it parental stuff? Well, nope, that's not in our control. So we have to come to a true, I think what we kind of came to an agreement on is we need alignment across our instructional math system, K-12, to make sure that we are all focusing on, we're going to dig deep into schedules, like how does Green Acres' schedule look maybe different than how Columbine does. And it's opened up really, for me, I've been just really pleased, like really awesome dialogue. So you can't stay in the root cause very long, like, yes, this is the reason. You always take the root cause and you spin it back to, yes, this has been a challenge, but what are we going to do about it? And so at the district level, that will definitely be one of our strategies in our Unified Improvement Plan. And then we're working towards kind of identifying different performance challenges. You have to dig deep. It takes a long time. We've met for 2 hours at a time, and we've just kind of scaled the surface of the work that we're doing. And so this team has been phenomenal to work with, and we're just going to move forward. The one other piece that I do want you to know that kind of just came out of the Unified Improvement Plan work is typically we've kind of waited and we've more looked at it as, to be honest, a compliance document for CDE. And we're moving into, with Dr. Hammock's support, a continuous improvement cycle where we're really focusing on our data. And so the next PD day in October 17th, I wrote out there, 18th, all the buildings will be spending time with their own buildings. So we've kind of modeled the procedure for root cause. They're going to be doing root cause with their building, and by the end of that day, hopefully they've tied out a pretty good Unified Improvement Plan. So you'll be seeing those much earlier this year. We do not have to wait until April to submit them. And so, I think that's all I'm going to say, because if you have any, the reason the principals are here, if you have specific questions about buildings, now is a good time to ask, because I'm going to ask you to approve accreditation later. However, I'm going to change the one rating that we're not agreeing with at Baker. So, but it's a good time to ask any principal questions you have. Come on, at least one.
Well, I don't have specific questions. It's
Okay.
a lot. Well, it's a lot of information. I know I talked to you earlier because when you glance at it, I'm curious how it compares. You talked a little bit about that, how it compares before. But I like the work that you're doing together, the elementary schools in particular, on kind of those best practices. I am curious what the state graduation rate looks like on that. Do you know that? I'm just curious.
So the one thing I wish they would do is I wish they would just tell you every year, like, this is how you're doing compared to the state, and that's not how this graduation rate calculates, which makes it, for me, it makes it a little difficult.
Okay.
I'm
still kind of digesting because a lot of this is confusing to me until you explain.
That's fine. So if you go down to, I thought they gave you actually a better.
I didn't see it when I scrolled through, but it doesn't matter.
So of course, if you're at or above 85%, then we would be in the meets category. That doesn't really tell you how the state's doing. And I don't actually know, even on the School View dashboard, Dr. Hammock, have you ever seen on the School View dashboard if they actually have the state graduation rate?
No, I'd have to. Yeah,
I've never run across it, but it's a great question.
Well, I'm just curious. I know in the past we've seen it in some documentation. I'm not sure which document.
Yeah, I'll dig for that though, and other questions for principals? Principals, anyone want to say anything?
You should just line up.
Yeah. Say your name, your building, and your favorite sports team.
Favorite sports team.
I guess my question would be, is there anything in particular that we as a board can do to support you as you go forward?
It's all about the money.
Can I just say something here? Excuse me. Just a couple of quick comments. First of all, just my tremendous respect for Dr. Frasco and for all of our principals, and I know we've got some instructional coaches out there, but Rena, or Dr. Frasco, excuse me, has just been such an outstanding person for me to get a chance to work with this year, as have all of our principals been for me. We really, let me put it this way, all of our people have really taken in our instructional priorities as a district very, very seriously, very professionally. As Dr. Frasco said, we've spent, 6 hours or more at least, just very focused time looking at data. Our next steps in the process, beyond just their building improvement plans and our district plans, are to really look at how we're leading instructional work in our as administrators in our buildings each day, either through our professional development offerings for teachers or through instructional rounds, walkthroughs into our classrooms, and with a focus, as Dr. Frasco was saying, on mathematics achievement. But I can just tell you, as the superintendent of the district, the effort, the preparatory effort that our administrators have put into this work and that Dr. Frasco has put in has really been tremendous. And I think you're going to see some very, very strong results from this team because of those efforts.
I have an answer to your question. Thanks to Ms. Davis. The graduation in 2016 at the state level was 78.9%.
Thank you.
Can I just a last thing too, I didn't want to make sure I missed it though. But Trish, you asked how the board could be of assistance to, how I believe the board can be of assistance, and I think the board, I think it's our job to come back to the board on a very regular basis and report to you on what we're doing to get, and be very specific about what we're doing to get better results for kids, and as Dr. Frasco has done this evening, to show you what the information says, and then as a board, I know you're going to see initiatives put forward by our team that are going to look different than what you've seen in years past, and I ask you to hold us accountable at every step in the road, but also to know that we're trying to the best of our abilities to align everything we do in the district. It's going to take a lot of training on our part. Eventually, we're going to have to look at some things that we do as a district and probably flip them on their head somehow and see if we can't do them better. But I just ask the board to, again, hold us accountable for results, and also be willing to go down some different roads with us, because I think that's what it's going to take to get the kind of results we need to get for kids. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Hammock and Dr. Frasco. Any more comments or questions? Okay. Our next special presentation would be...
We have a presentation. Are both of you going to present, or?
I'm just here as backup and to answer any
Moral support.
Yeah.
Moral support.
Okay.
we made her do the city council and...
Okay, all right. This is on the Kaboom.
It's on the Kaboom project. So for
Playground.
those of you that don't know me, I'm Jody Walker, and I'm the founder and CFO of Kids at Their Best. Some quick background on Kids at Their Best. we're that little tiny nonprofit that does crazy stuff around the county, and we all do it in low-income areas. So we've done some park renovations. A couple years ago, we had a Broncos training camp come out. All of our programs are free for kids, and all of our activities take place in low-income areas, which is the segue to enter Kaboom. So Kaboom is a 23-year-old national agency. Their mission is to make safe play spaces for low-income children. They started out in the DC area where they're noticing that lots of low-income kids, there is no park, there is no safe place to play. These kids are playing in junkyards, they're playing in the refrigerators, all those kind of things. So Kaboom's been around for 23 years, and they do parks all over the nation. We as an agency can't afford Kaboom. So Colorado Health Foundation came in, and as you guys probably know, Morgan County is kind of a hot ticket right now for a lot of the foundations. We have a lot of diversity, we have a lot of childhood poverty, we have a lot of really exciting things going on, and we have a lot of foundations that are looking at helping us do our work. So between Kaboom and Colorado Health Foundation and us, we got a playground built. We've just completed, has anybody been by Landmark and seen our playground in Landmark?
Log Lane. I was like, it's not
Sorry.
Or you would have seen the coverage in the Times.
Guys gotta get out more. So we just finished a project down there. As you know, Log Lane is a low-income community. They already have one really nice park, but when you're a kid, 6 blocks is a long way to go to a park. So we were able to put a new park in. They actually just moved the skate park in there. All sorts of great things. Anyway, so getting to your part in this. Are you guys feeling like you're getting warmed up? You're all feeling warm and fuzzy, right? Okay, so we have the chance, this Kaboom project that we're looking at Landmark, we put in to do a playground at Landmark. No big deal. What they realized was that this is an opportunity to do a first ever in the nation project. So Kaboom does playgrounds and they do play paths. They've done them separately before, they've never put the two of them together. So this is the first chance at this project that we're going to connect the playground with the play path, and so we get to be the pilot and the model. So I'm going to share some pictures so you guys can get kind of a visual while I talk. The first one is our example of the playground that's going in at Landmark. So the kids have that at Landmark, but every day these kids from Landmark walk to Pioneer to school. So the second one is a crossing walk. So they're going to walk around the corner from their area. They're going to go across the crosswalk, and it's going to have cheetah paws on it. They're going to encounter signs on the play path that's through there that say, "Welcome to the jungle." The play path is going to have kid-themed designs on it. So the kids at Pioneer right now are working on designing what kind of pictures they want on this play path. The play path is asphalt. We're going to paint all of the things on there. And I just found out this afternoon that there's the alleyway and then there's the play path. So we're all worried about the fencing issue. Kaboom's going to be able to fund the fencing project. So you'll be able to get the fence that runs in the school. There will now be a fence that runs between that alleyway and the play path just to keep the kids safer. So you guys should all agree to this just because we're putting in the fence. But there's better reasons. Then once you get inside the school boundaries, we're going to be doing paint projects on the sidewalk there. And there are a bunch of different things that can go on. And this is where you guys can piece out this project. We have scheduled for 3 different pieces of musical equipment. We have drums, we have xylophone, and we have keyboard type thing to go in. So that'll only be 3 pieces of equipment. There is also a balance beam project that's looking at going in. There's also a stage that the kids had requested on the design day. So it's up to you guys how many of those pieces that you want to put in. And we can adjust that. But this will give the kids that are walking from Landmark a chance to, do you guys remember when we all walked to school? Okay, Derek, you didn't walk to school. You've always ridden a bus. But those of us that walked to school, you stepped over the cracks and you played hopscotch and you drug the stick along someone's fence to make music. This is the modern version of that, getting these kids moving and expending energy before they get into your classrooms. So we're working on fitness, we're working on just that connection piece. The other thing that you guys should think about this isn't like all kids at their best projects. This isn't just a one-time thing. This is going to lead to more things. So the way Kaboom works is the first thing that they do is they get all the kids together and the kids go through and they design their favorite playground. What do you want? Do you want unicorns? Do you want fire trucks? Do you want swings? So we had about 35 kids there that night designing their favorite playground. And then we had adults come in from the area. I think we had a couple of your teachers there. And the adults come through and they go through and they translate the kids' designs into a playground. Then we send all that information away to Playworld, which is the company that we're using. And if you're familiar with Playworld, they do amazing stuff. They're a very quality agency. I love their kind of equipment. And they send us back 3 designs. And then the community is then able to pick from those designs. So we have quality equipment coming in. We have all of those things coming in. But what this is going to lead to is then we bring together 200 people to make this happen in a single day. We start at 8 in the morning. We do a little bit of exercise. We have a couple people talk, and then everybody gets to work. There are no power equipment other than we will have hammer drills, putting in a couple of bolts. There's no machinery. This is all done by hand, so everybody gets to have a piece in this. And for those of you that are used to using machinery, I gotta tell you, it drives me crazy that we're not grabbing a bobcat and dumping this mulch in, but we have people shoveling mulch and taking it over to the playpath or taking it over to the playground and putting it in. We're having people that are mixing cement and going over to where those 3 musical pieces are going in. The holes will be pre-dug and we're cementing them in. So there's a whole lot of ownership in this piece. And what I see this coming to is you're going to have parents, you're going to have teachers, you're going to have kids, and everybody's coming together for this project. So the next time that there's something that comes up, like I'm looking at maintenance, the school you guys don't have the resources to go back and repaint all those little paw prints that you saw in the crosswalk, right? But it's a great time to do that community, government, private partnership. So there's no reason why we couldn't make this an annual event to update whatever needs to be updated. And in that annual event, obviously we don't need that much work, so maybe we only have 50 people and they all come together and next year they spruce up the play path and then they go over and they repaint the 4 squares on the asphalt, on the playground. Or they repaint something else. So there's potential for free labor out of this. Did everybody hear that in the budget? Did everybody hear their budget smiling? Okay. Partners. So nobody wants to be the one kid that doesn't get in the swimming pool. This is a really unique project because in Morgan County we have all sorts of programs that go on and we have all sorts of projects, but never have we had a governmental agency, a private agency, a nonprofit, and a city all coming together for the same project at the same time. And that's what this one is. We've also never had something that's had 200 people at it all working for the same goal. So there's, we also have, Dr. Hammock, if you were worried about as far as quality, we have about 4 different local contractors that are very reputable contractors that will be working on this project with us. They also are going nuts that they're doing it all by hand, but they do know how to do these things. So what do we need from you guys? The ultimate thing, right? So we need permission to go ahead and do this project. We need the play path. I know, Mike, you and Dr. Hammock have also talked to Christina about cleaning up the play path a little bit. There's some dead trees on it and some weeds over there that they were talking about cleaning up. We can help you with that. I mean, we only have 12 days, so I know there's some maintenance issues, but we can totally help with that. We need your participation. We need teachers and principals to get out there and come help, even if you're only coming for a couple hours. We need you to come out and be part of this project and work alongside of our parents and alongside of our kids making this happen. And then we need water to mix a couple buckets of concrete. because we don't want to haul concrete for that quarter mile or whatever it is. So the needs that we need are really fairly minimal. As far as everything that you saw in the project can be pieced out. If there is a certain piece, like you don't think that a balance beam would be a good thing in this, then let's cut out the balance beam. Let's not kill the whole project for the sake of one thing. And we have a whole lot of flexibility. The one thing we don't have is time. We are seriously short on time. But we have a whole lot of flexibility to make this happen and to bring this community together. And then I'm a really big media girl, so I am all about hitting a whole lot of media pieces on this. And let's get RE3 some credit and some positive publicity on how you guys stepped up to be the first ever in the nation school district private-public partnership. I have to throw it in. I would be totally amiss if I didn't, because your budget has a whole lot more zeros than my budget. If you guys wanted to kick anything to this project, that would be fabulous. We'd really like $1,000, but I'm not willing to kill this project if you guys can't come up with money. This is a good thing for our community. It is an amazing thing for our kids. It's bringing everyone together in ways that this county hasn't seen before, and it's a national project. We need to do this, guys. Questions?
What does your timeline look like?
12 days.
But when does it start?
Starts at 8 o'clock on September 29th, and we cut the ribbon at 2:30.
Well, go ahead.
No.
Well, yeah. I guess my understanding was that we were going to talk about this to the board this evening. I don't have the project on here as an approval item, but I know, Mike, you and I have talked about some concerns with the project, and you want to talk about those a little bit?
Sure. You're passing around, there's some extra copies there, but one of the things that was interesting about this discussion that came across my desk is I had no idea we owned a strip of ground from Pioneer over to Main Street. That was an interesting discovery, I guess.
I heard that surprised a lot of people.
Yeah, so this is the map, and there's actually a deed in there. And if you look at the page one, which is the colored page, the blue is our outline of Pioneer. And on the upper top left corner, I put a green box around that blue line. That's that strip that runs down the alley. And that's actually a 60-foot strip. And I've been over there and driven that alley a few times now, just trying to get a perception of kind of where we are. And there's fencing on the south that I would suspect belongs to the neighbor of the south. And your comment is...
The fence is that house, yeah.
Yeah, the comment is appropriate. That is totally overgrown. There's down trees and bushes and things of that nature. So we have a couple things internally at RE3 to get a handle on of maintaining that asphalt path. And let's say, number one, that we have an asphalt path. I don't know if we put that in some time ago or where that asphalt path came from. But probably doing a review of that asphalt, because it's probably no different than the asphalt we have all over the district in our parking lots. From my visual from the vehicle, it looked like there's some alligator cracking going on in there, and so that's always just an ongoing issue. So I think we have some strategic issues to discuss about the safety of kids passing on there. We have this. I was thinking that was always city property, but apparently that's RE3 property. And as I'm understanding this, there would be no actual structures in this strip. It's just painting.
It's just paint.
And then the structures then go over to Pioneer. Is that
right?
Is that
inside?
correct?
So when you're walking this path, there's Main Street, there's the asphalt path, and then there's the fence for Pioneer. You guys can probably see that on your maps. Inside that fence is all very nicely poured sidewalk. On this side, you have beautiful lawns. So if it was my lawn, I wouldn't want to mess with the lawn. I think the design is to put all of these, any of the projects that are going in on the dirt that's between the fence and the sidewalk.
So there's no, because I know the, excuse me, I know the video that I was provided with on the Kaboom pathways. It shows different structures along that pathway.
I think that was their original idea, and then as of our phone call today at 4:30 this afternoon, all of the things are looking at being inside of the fence. That gives you guys better control of it.
You mean over at the landmark?
No, over.
Oh, inside the Pioneer fence.
Yeah, inside the Pioneer fence.
Okay.
So there's not going to be, some kid falling off of something over behind a tree where you can't see it. It'll all be in that open area.
Sure.
And there's the nice sidewalk that goes on the south side there's grass, on the north side there's just dirt.
Yes.
So putting those musical pieces or any of the other pieces that you guys are interested in over on that dirt side is what we're looking at.
Okay.
So where is the fence going to go that they would pay for that?
If you're looking at your drawing and you can see where Pioneer is fenced and where the concrete area is with Pioneer, right outside of that, once you start with that asphalt, the asphalt and the alley kind of blend in together. So the fence would go in line with the current fence and come out to Main Street. So it'll provide a lot better protection for those kiddos, that now you're going to very distinctly separate the alley from the asphalt path.
The fence would be on the north side of the asphalt.
Okay. So
And
what
then
would the fence be made out of?
I assume it'd be chain link.
I'm thinking chain link. I got to tell you, honestly, I got a phone call at 6 o'clock that said, hey, ask the school board who they want for a contractor and see if we can get this up in the next 10 days. So if y'all know a contractor, we can have your fence up in the next 10 days. I'm thinking realistically, it's probably going to take us longer. I don't think there's a contractor available in the county that isn't working on the up north part from the tornado and stuff. But you guys will get to approve, Kaboom's not going to put in a fence. They're going to give you options. Here's what we can do. You guys can come back with, we want an Alkire fence, we want the chain link, we want a wooden fence, whatever you guys come up with, they can go ahead and meet that. I don't know exactly what their budget is, but I do know the strange way that Kaboom works is that the budget magically happens. So it's not a case of numbers and we can't afford that. It's a case of this is what they want and this is what needs to happen, and then that's what happens. Colorado Health Foundation, so here's another thought on this. Colorado Health Foundation is super, super excited about this project, and they're one of the private foundations that happened when they sold Rose Memorial, and all of those funds got converted to a nonprofit, so they have some very deep pockets. So the potential of now having Colorado Health Foundation as a partner for you opens up a lot of funding doors that, exactly like this fence. I know that was one of everybody's first concerns is, holy cow, we own this path and there's not a fence separating our kids from all these cars that are driving up and down that alley. We can make that one happen, and we can make it happen quickly.
I think I would like to have Mr. Link's opinion on this.
While he's coming up to the podium, I have just a couple more comments, I guess. One of the things that and it's interesting now that the stuff is not going to be in this path, but the supervision issue is a key thing for district liability, is encouraging kids to be in that area of direct access to those homes in that alley, the bushes. That causes me definitely some concern, but moving that stuff off of the path to Pioneer in our supervised area is a whole different scenario. The other piece of this is, recall our earlier discussions about trying to have our own maintenance department reinstall our playground equipment, and we're not comfortable enough to even do that because we don't have certified playground installers to do that for the liability protection. So I have some concerns about having unskilled laborers show up to do this. And I didn't heard about the contractors, but I don't know any contractor around here that has any of the playground certification requirements to do that. Granted, these are not going to be, 20-foot climbing structure kinds of components, but navigating through that process, supervising the workers on RE3 property, swinging the shovel and stick the neighbor in the head with the shovel kind of component comes to mind, I guess. So those would be some concerns that we would definitely have to walk through.
Mike, just a comment too. I've gotten a couple of calls over the past week or so from, I think the individual's name was Simone. I think that Sienna, excuse me, from Kaboom. And I did ask her about this build, this is it 12 days from now? Okay, so this build day. And she noted to me that in the agreement, the build day is not hard and fast. That if we're not ready for it, there is provisions within the agreement to place the build day on hold, because I stated to her, I felt there were a lot of questions still, and Rod, I'm trying to remember when you first brought the agreement to my attention. In August. Okay, so that's when you first brought it to my attention. So, it's been less than a month that we're talking about, and I would just ask the board or to consider that, anytime we take on a project, obviously we want to do, a very, very good job with it and provide for safety and make sure that it gets done right. And this is September the 17th. This is less than a month later, and I do think we've tried to, that on our end we're just trying to make sure that we do everything right. I don't think there's anyone, at least I know when Mike Lee and I and Rod have talked about it, certainly you see all the good things for children coming out of it, but I just want to make sure that we do it right.
Well, and to clarify, Mike, we have certified installers. Kaboom has a crew that comes out, so we don't have people digging the holes. So we have the playground team that Kaboom has the playground team. I don't have the playground team. Kaboom has the playground team that comes out. They measure off, they mark off. I mean, obviously the big part of this is going to be the playground structure itself. They walk the whole project. They're the ones that dig the holes, making sure that everything is the exact height, everything else. As far as with the playground, not that that's relevant to this one, but the other half of it, it's relevant to the quality and the thought that Kaboom puts into projects. So they have a team of 2 or 3 certified playground installers that come out, they dig the holes, they make the framework, they approve everything that's going in. So like on our playground part, while we're using people for the labor, and while we're doing that community build model, that's what makes Kaboom so unique, is rather than hiring a team, it's everybody coming together. That's also why there's no mechanical equipment. Everything is pre-done. So the biggest thing that people are doing is we have, like, our contractors bring putting together the playground equipment, obviously. We have, if you choose to do some of the wood projects, like in Log Lane, we have a team leader that does like shade structure. So we have a team leader, and then he has 4 or 5 people underneath him. All of the wood is pre-cut, so they're putting it together. All of our holes on that particular thing were already redone. So that stuff was done on prep day, and our contractors did that. And then they come in and they're putting in, the benches that they're putting together. It's a lot of low-key things. So the danger factor, and I totally understand, like, all we need is some 13-year-old that's winging around a shovel and clocks somebody. There won't be any shovels on the school portion of this. We will have people in paintbrushes. I don't think we're even going to have any rollers on your end. So on the path, there will be people and paintbrushes. The holes will be pre-dug. I imagine on the xylophone that we'll be putting it together. So they'll be screwing those little plates in, and they're using wrenches by hand. There's no mechanical equipment on those. Putting it on the stand, setting it up. Then we mix the concrete in wheelbarrows by hand and pour the concrete in, and then cover it with dirt. So hopefully that answers a couple of your questions. There are certified playground installers on this. And as far as the liability, I really don't see a lot of it on this end. There are no shovels on your end of it. There are no shovels. We'll give them a broom to sweep the concrete out of the wheelbarrow.
I'll be interested to see concrete mixing in a wheelbarrow without a shovel. We'll have to go watch to see that. So.
We use concrete hose, which should not be confused with concrete HOES, which we also use. Speaking to Dr. Hammock's position as far as you can, there are options to push this back, but it does kind of blow the community aspect of this project. Like, our build has to happen on the 29th. I don't have the ability to call the people that we've got signed up for this already and go, hey man, we're gonna change this, because that's not gonna work on our end. We can always do it in 2 separate parts. That's not a big thing. But as far as bringing everybody together to do this big community project, I think, and I'm not trying to push you, I'm really not. But I do think it's an important thing that we do it as a community on the same day, if we can make that happen.
Describe can you describe the soil test requirements that, if I'm understanding the agreement?
Analytical lead and arsenic.
So you've already lined that up, or are we?
I have not for the school district property, but we can. We've done it on 2 other ones.
And then the insurance coverage amounts, I think there's thresholds in there in the agreement that we have to have certain.
We covered, when we did Log Lane, CIRSA covered it as a regular project. And as far as our portion of it, Graf Homes liability is covering our portion within the Graf Homes community.
But our agreement requires us to provide evidence of certain thresholds, if I'm reading that correct?
Yes, and it's $1 million. So we actually, like on our project in Log Lane, it was a question of whether we as a nonprofit were providing the liability or the town was providing the liability, because we have a $2 million liability. The town, it's going to be the town stuff, so the town opted to provide it, but they didn't have to do anything else with their insurance carrier. It was already covered under CIRSA.
And then who owns the playground equipment that would be on the school site? Is that?
It's all yours.
That's a kind of in-kind donation to the school district?
Yep.
Okay.
You will own the fence. You will own any of the equipment that we put in. And we're looking at those 3 pieces. There's a xylophone, a drum set, and the chimes.
You mentioned something about cleaning up that pathway, all the shrubs, and which is more kind of a global concept, because they've way overgrown. Would be if we measure 60 foot in there, that stuff has really creeped toward the path over years. But
I have looked at it really close. So the biggest things you're going to have is there's a tree that someone cut down that was a large tree.
On the east
and
end
it's
there?
Over on Garber's fence. So I feel like we need to get that off of Garber's fence and get the remnants of it out. Like, it needs to go away. There's some little sumac trees that are growing. There's some elms that are dying, like elms do. I would suggest that we cut them and put some kills on them so they go away. You have some beautiful lilac bushes over there that seem to be growing just fine. And then I think a good mow over in the back. It's mostly tumbleweeds and stuff. That's not a long-term solution, obviously, but it would be a good start, and it would be fairly easy, and we would be more than happy to help out with that.
The painting of the pathway, has anyone kind of looked at that who's got some painting experience with that asphalt?
Oh yeah, we've had lots of conversations. Ann Unrich's heading up that project. So if any of you are familiar with Ann and Ann's work, Ann did the community mural that was down on the fire department for a long time. She's done a lot of different community projects.
Yeah, she's a great painter. I'm talking about is fixing paint to a deteriorating asphalt surface.
Right.
What's
So
the
we
life
have,
expectancy of that?
So
or?
our plan for it is we're gonna pressure wash it. At least this is what, I mean, this is obviously all up to you guys. But we can come in, pressure wash it, let it dry, and then there's a primer. It's a concrete asphalt primer that we'll put down on it that'll help with some of that sealing because it is cracking. It's old asphalt. And then once we put the sealer down, then we'll be using a concrete asphalt paint that's designed specifically to go over this. It's gonna be a challenge. It's not painting on a smooth surface, but it's gonna be a cool project. And, you know, I can't see hopscotch being a huge liability. And I don't think we're actually even putting hopscotch on there. I think those are gonna be the kids' designs, so it's going to be more things, Rod can speak more to that, or
Lava.
Are we doing lava on that piece?
Lava, a lot of, like, some animals, frogs. So the students who attended the design, they had these visions of kind of a jungle, so it'll be jungle-inspired student artwork that we just make come to life with this paint that's specific for that surface.
And what's our maintenance requirement on the painting? Do we have some kind of commitment to keep that repainted?
I believe your commitment is 5 years on the painting. It is not as long on the painting as it is on the equipment. Obviously, they want the equipment to last for at least 10 years, but your equipment is also guaranteed. So if we put this in and next week the things start falling off of it, you pick up the phone and you say, hey, we need this fixed. And they will send out another one. Kaboom will take care of that. They guarantee all of their things that are put on. So for example, if we do, one of the talks is a stage. So that would be a wood project like we did in Log Lane. In Landmark, we are not doing any wood projects. I am responsible for the maintenance on that one. And as a small agency, that was not reasonable for us, so we're doing all metal things in Landmark. So we have metal picnic tables that are going in, we have metal benches that are going in. But for example, if you did the stage, when Christina and I were talking, she's thinking that the lifespan on these is somewhere between 5 and 7 years. So it's pressure treated lumber that we'd be using. Obviously, you know, it needs a little sprucing up after a few years. But that's also one where I see this being a long-term partnership. We already partner with you guys for food service and it works fabulous. We do it every single year and they provide the meals to our summer program so every kid in the county gets the same meal, or every kid in the Morgan area gets the same meal. I could see that same thing coming up, and I can totally understand. Your maintenance guys don't have time to go paint daisies and butterflies in every spring. So that's one where meet with us, we'll schedule a day, we'll get all the volunteers, and we'll have people come for a day and paint those daisies and butterflies. So that way it's not coming out of your budget and it's not on you guys. You guys have enough. I mean, I watched what Rena went through. You guys have enough of that stuff. You don't have to worry about daisies and butterflies. I'm a nonprofit. I'm all about daisies and butterflies.
I realize the fence has been just a very recent kind of component of
Yes.
that. City on board with the fence, or are they okay with that fence, or with the certain easements in that alley?
Get back
And
to the board as soon as possible. The city's been really helpful in determining some of our projects in the crosswalk, since we wanted to paint paw prints in the crosswalk to connect to the school district property. And the city's also closing the street for us so that volunteers can be safe on the day that we're painting.
And
But
the city has
since
picnic tables.
and they're helping with picnic tables. But yeah, as far as since the fence is a new project or a new addition, and just so the board understands, the fence will have play items on it as well. So like they'll have, so it can be covered in this grant. It has some kind of play component. So in a lot of other communities that they have a fence for safety, they also add like, you know, some kind of drum or like wheels that spin. So it's attached firmly and safe on the fence, but it can, yeah, just think of some fun spinny things and drums just kind of dispersed evenly along the fence. So I can probably within 2 business days let you know if the city's okay with the fencing then, but since it's a safety issue, and we have clear plans from the assessor's office, I don't think there'll be any big hiccups with that.
Yeah, I just didn't look into if there's any kind of easements on that the
Right.
city normally has a lot of easement power, and I just didn't know they have an easement where we could block them out.
So I can commit to an answer in 2 business days.
Okay.
Mrs. Walker, just,
Yes.
so what is your total volunteer group size?
Because our online portal is only in English, I cannot tell you for absolute certain until the morning of.
Yeah,
I do know that we're aiming for 200.
wow, that's a lot of people.
I know.
I guess that's, again, just for my response to the Board of Education, and, again, another reason that I don't have this on here as an action item is, number one, we don't, just some of the issues that we've talked about tonight, we don't know if the city is actually going to support a fence in there. We don't know of the actual, I've not seen an actual size of our volunteer group. There just seems, again, from my point of view, or from my position, there seems to be a number of items on here that we still don't have answers on. And again, I go back to, is it a nice thing for kids? Without a doubt. Without a doubt. I just felt, until I had some more specifics on here, I could not put it on as an item for the board to take action on.
I can totally understand that. We are more than willing to answer any of your questions. And one of the big learning curves on this is the difference between being able to be a fast-moving nonprofit and being a government entity.
Yeah.
The big picture in this, though, is the community. And I think we can have, well before Friday, if you guys have specific answers for us, we can have them to you by Friday. And I realize that that's a very quick turnaround for the school board.
Yeah.
And I very much appreciate you guys letting us present.
So,
Derek, I'd still like to hear from Mr. Link as
Yeah,
well.
Mr. Link, we'd like to
Been
hear
waiting
you.
patiently. Thank you.
Yes. Mr. Link?
Ron came up here 15 minutes ago.
He's back.
Would you like to begin with questions, or would you like me to present my thoughts?
I would love to hear your thoughts.
So, you can ask 5 different people to critique Case Keenum's performance this last weekend. You're going to get 12 different responses, and that's really kind of where we're at here. When Pioneer was not awarded the initial Kaboom grant, I guess I understood what was going on. I felt that this was somewhat of a consolation prize in a way. Kind of you're the first loser, so we'll give you this. I think a lot of really good things have come about from this. I think primarily that we discovered that pathway that leads from the greater Pioneer campus to Main Street is the school property. And that is first and foremost in my mind. And simply because it is not a safe area for kids to be. And I say that because it's not been kept up. And that's not to the fault of the school district, because I don't think anybody knew that was our property. I don't know if you knew. I certainly did not. The first time that I was presented with that information as being the schools, I told, I can't remember which city employee, but I told them that they're crazy. There's no way in the world that could be ours. So that led me to the conclusion that we have to do something to either beautify that area or rectify the current condition of it, because the weeds are overgrown. The trees present a danger for our students when they're walking, not necessarily in the mornings at this time of the year, but during the winter. I'm concerned about it because I think that it is a very easy place to conceal somebody. On the way home, I think that it's a danger as well, and that has to be first and foremost addressed. And that's the one advantage that I can see with this teaming up with Kaboom, is that it takes care of that area. I also think that there's a high likelihood that we take care of that area without school district expense. I'm a pragmatist when it comes to this. All of the arguments that were presented in terms of liability all of the arguments in terms of organization are very real. So I certainly understand where Dr. Hammock is coming from. I certainly understand the liability, the negligence, all of those things. But I do see this as an opportunity. And I was asked the question, and I'm going to address the board as I was asked with this question: why should we do this? And you know, after all the time that I put in with the phone meetings and conferences, it's a great question. You know, I've asked myself that a lot of times. But at the end of the day, I think it beautifies the campus, or that has the opportunity to beautify the campus. I think that it affords us an opportunity to create some relationships and positive relationships with outside entities beyond the school. I think that affords our students at Pioneer some greater opportunities as well. We applied for the Kaboom Playground grant because our playground equipment is beginning to disintegrate. It's getting old. It's original equipment. And that's another positive thing that has come about as a result of this, is it's shed some light and attention to that matter. Whether that be the school district address it in the future, or whether we go through a grant to address those needs. So it's ultimately the discretion of the board in terms of making that decision. I trust your judgment with that. I think Dr. Hammock is very wise in terms of how he's approaching this and with the questions that he's asking. An unfortunate reality of working with Kaboom is they're an entity that does not think like a school district. They do not think and work like a city organization. They actually take somewhat of a backwards approach. I think that there is a high degree of latitude in terms of addressing the Kaboom agency what our needs are, and I think that they would be very forthright in looking at those needs. I think that they want this to happen very much. So I think that's to our advantage. I guess that's my 2 cents in a nutshell.
Thank you.
Do you guys have further questions or more specific questions?
Pretty much filled in all the holes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you. Well, I would ask that if any of the board members have any further questions, maybe to relay those to Dr. Hammock tomorrow, and Dr. Hammock can relay those to Jody so that we can get answers to them and hopefully have some answers to some of your questions.
Derek, and board members, again, to meet a 12-day timeline, our next board meeting isn't until October the 1st. So,
I think it's a.
I don't know. Go ahead.
Well, I was just gonna say, I think it's an interesting and exciting project. I wish that it had been introduced to the board. I don't know at what point the pathway was added. Maybe August. But I'm thinking even sooner than that, because I would love to go look at what we're talking about, see the property. I feel like we're kind of invited to the party a little bit late as a board, so that I'd like to feel really excited about it, but there are a lot of questions that are not answered. So I agree with you, Dr. Hammock and Mr. Lee.
Is it something where? I mean, obviously you folks have, Kaboom has the build day with Landmark. And again, when I spoke with the other lady, Sienna. I keep wanting to say Simone, I'm sorry. For some reason that's really funny, I'm sorry.
Simone.
Oh, I get it, I'm sorry. Well, that's a very nice, they're both very nice names. But, sorry about that. Again, it seems to me that we could have more answers given some more time. And when I spoke to this individual, she said
we're not held hard and fast to that date, and our project, at least in scope, is much smaller. I'd rather do it right and get it done right.
What's that?
I agree wholeheartedly.
Yeah.
And to add, as a point of clarification, Dr. Hammock, you asked at what date that I gave you this information, and I gave it to you on August 27th. And there were a lot of bigger things going on at that time, or immediately there before. But I was also trying to find the date that Kaboom contacted me in terms of, when this could occur, or the offering that they provided. And I could not find the exact date, but I know it was in the August 20th something. So there was not a lot of time, which again, when you talk about a conflict of how agencies operate, I certainly understand. And that's been one of my points in my conversations with the Kaboom agency is we don't, it's really hard to work within your structure of communication and progress because we don't function in that way. So it's been a conundrum. It's been difficult to navigate. I agree. I think it's a very positive thing that Kaboom has granted us additional time for that. That's something that I was not made aware of. I also understand from Jody's point of view of trying to make this very communal and having those ties, immediately cross borders. But you're all right. I mean, and so it's a matter of, as the board, as this information is presented, to determine which way to proceed forward.
Thank you, Mr. Link. I think we need to relay our questions to Dr. Hammock and then see if we can get a comfort level on some of these issues. And I'm with you. I don't know that the 29th is necessarily a doable date for the district with everything that's hanging out there, but hopefully that's not something that winds up being a deal breaker, because it does sound like a project that could benefit us all.
Yeah. Just to point out, do you realize that part of the delay is the irony in this, in that because our project got pushed back, we didn't get our approval until July, and the school district the Kaboom was trying to find a way to include the school district, and this is the first project in the nation. So it's kind of ironic the way that, like, you got the late date because we had to create something to make this all work.
Definitely.
So please don't think that that's the way Kaboom operates. They do operate like a nonprofit. It's a fast hustle being a nonprofit and being a successful one, and especially a national one. So please don't hold that against them. And thank you so much for letting us present this evening.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It does sound like an exciting project, and hopefully we can somehow figure out a way to make it happen. Next on the agenda is our opportunity for the audience. Anybody in the audience want to address the board? Okay, moving on.
Thanks for everything you guys do.
Well, thank you.
Thanks, Allison.
I'm a parent of 4 RE3 children, and I really support and love what you do to help support our district.
You're very kind.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Our high school representative, due to homecoming.
She's playing powder puff.
And
Not
who
here.
is she?
Hannah Graff.
Oh, okay.
Any board reports? This isn't a board report, but I'll throw out that we need to be thinking about CASB and whether you want to attend the conference in Colorado Springs.
Right. And I know they give you a window of opportunity for lodging. This Thursday will be the first of this school year BOCES board meeting, so I'll be attending that Thursday.
Dr. Hammock, are you ready for a
yeah.
superintendent report?
Yes, I've got a few items here that I want to have Mr. Boyer put up for me. So what? Okay. So does this show up, Mike? The Word document is
It's processing. Sorry, but, oh, there it goes. Okay, so we have policies for the board's first reading. Again, these are updated with in alignment. Remember, the board had an audit done on policies last year, and then what I've done and what we're going to be doing every month is just forwarding you those updates. So the first one is on, and for your approval, this is a first reading. First one's on accreditation, and again, I just wanted to real quickly show you any changes that we made. Accreditation was pretty straightforward. Essentially, in this policy, there's just in alignment with CASB, there's just some clarifications on language, or actually they've reduced some of the language in this first policy, and that's really the only change that was done under the accreditation policy. So that's the first policy. There's a revision here on tobacco-free schools, and again, the only revision there is just, well, I guess there's not a revision on that one. So the only revision there is just, well, there's the revision at the end of the date, and then there is again a strikeout at the top where it says shall be banned from. They've just changed the language to say is prohibited on school property. That's all. That was the only change that was done there. Again, a first reading. School district mission statement. Again, that's specific to your school district. So again, there was no changes at all with that policy. That's again is a first reading. Non-discrimination, equal opportunity policy. Let me open that up for you. The changes here again. There's a strikeout in the first paragraph, and again they've just condensed the language. Unlawful discrimination and harassment. That's a common theme that you're going to see, that condensing of the language. There's a strikeout in the second paragraph where it's redundant. Then they say complaints may be submitted orally or in writing. That's a new change in the language as opposed to informally or formally. Again, I'm not quite sure why they changed that, but I think they just changed it for simplicity's sake or clarity's sake. Compliance officer duties. I'm the compliance officer, and they've restructured a lot of these policies to really emphasize that in terms of harassment and discrimination, so that someone who feels they need to go through a complaint process, there is a individual within the district, they know who to bring those complaints to, and essentially that's what the rest of that policy does. This one I can see where it does not show that I updated those calendar days. I thought I had done that for sure. All those calendar days updates are 10 calendar days. So that's what you'll see repeated throughout all these policies is, where it says here in this paragraph, compliance officer shall confer with the aggrieved individual and or alleged victim of discrimination. The number of days I checked with Poudre School District, I checked with Boulder School District. The number is 10 calendar days that we would have in our policy there. And then formal action statements, those are all the same from the policy in the past. And then again, they've taken a lot of the language out just to condense the language beyond that. The complaint process again has been removed. The formal complaint process has been removed and just changed to to the bottom of the page where they're saying, where they're again just condensing it and saying, okay, so here is the hearing officer has issued a decision, and then they walk through a hearing procedure. But again, it's just a lot of these policies are just, they're trying to reduce the number, they're trying to reduce some of the verbiage within those policies. And let me see. There's also an equal opportunity non-discrimination policy. Again, that's the complaint officer here, superintendent of schools, and they reference right here. You can see again they just reduce the references to Title IX in Section 504 because what they're trying to show there is there's no categories on that. It's a all-encompassing non-discrimination policy. And then the last policy I have on there is just the general non-discrimination policy. So that same policy showed up several times. That's why it was in the audit, because all those go together. And let me see where there's changes here. The change here again with the harassment pieces is again they're just trying to make these policies larger in scope. So they're saying any student, any employee, of the alleged individual alleged to have engaged in prohibited conduct, and they talk about the investigation process at that point. So any questions at all? Those are all first readings. Again, all the strikeouts, all the changes in those policies are aligned with what CASB has on their most updated policies. So any questions from the board? The second document that I have is a priority model that we established with our administrators on buildings and grounds concerns, as well as a document that Mike Lee has that he's built over multiple years. So what we did was we met with our administrative team on projects, and you can see we've categorized these projects per building or per area within our school district. And so what we had our administrators do is list projects in their buildings that are large projects that are in need of repair. And what we're trying to do is place these then on that scope. So I'll quickly go down through this. You can see for example, at Lincoln School, ability to lock classroom doors from the inside, and that was carried across for all of our schools. We just listed it one time. We also noted that there were some corrosion on windows. Here's Green Acres School dealing with corrosion. That was continued across at least a couple different buildings. Pulling down, and I know you've seen a lot of the high school ones before, but pulling down here, inconsistent HVAC, some of our different HVAC units, not functioning properly or having smell issues associated with them. Updating of, I know you're familiar with this, updating of restrooms. Here's the high school at the Legion Field. Emergency egress from some of our buildings, playground tables disintegrating at the Columbine School. And Mike Lee and I talked about having this information in front of us and being able to build a summer plan with a lot of these items are not hugely expensive items for us, and we can locate those on summer planning over the next 2 summers, and I think we'll be in a position to address the majority of those items, and they won't be, again, contain a huge cost ticket to them. I've also got, and I know you've seen this as well, we also have a district replacement plan that Mike has built, or Mr. Lee has built over a number of years, and you can see that plan here again. And one thing we'll try to do over the course of this year is place that on a schedule for, I'm assuming for fiscal 20. We're in fiscal 19? Yeah, we're in fiscal 19 right now. So place that on a schedule after July 1 for some of that work to get done, along with some other large projects, and then just, cost out, bring our architects on board to help us look at costing out those projects, and then place those on a schedule to get done beginning this summer. Some of those projects that were identified, along with some of our larger projects, and we'd like to do that. The plan is to do that early on, so that we can organize those projects, and again get those in some sort of a planning model. Kind of like, I guess, with the same sort of idea that you might have for like a replacement project for uniforms or textbooks or what have it. We just know what the projects are. We've got them on an organized schedule, and we can address them more effectively that way. We also have, and I wanted to ask the board. So that's the first 2 items. I wanted to ask the board too about, there is mosaic artwork that's associated with the middle school, and I'll bring some of these up for you to see. And my understanding is the Calvary University is not planning on holding on to this artwork. And I don't know if this has come up for discussion before with the Board of Education as to what you want to do with it.
Is it removable? I mean,
I believe it's removable. When they reached out to me, they told me it was removable.
Because I remember it coming up at the time when we were transitioning the building, and I know that there was some community support to make sure that came back to us when we did whatever we were going to do with the building. So
that was my favorite thing at the middle school, was those.
Yeah.
Oops.
So I don't know, Jason, I don't know if there's been any conversation of how we would incorporate it into your school, or has anything come up with that?
We had some discussions at the time of design of the building, and then obviously as we moved over, it didn't fit into the scheme of things. We talked about trying to incorporate it into the floor. We talked about doing things. Unfortunately, with our building and the size of those pieces, I don't have a true place for them per se. They are all kind of oriented by Carol Badakian. They are on sheets of plywood or sheets of plywood, so they are removable.
Yeah.
It's very nice artwork, very nice pieces, but
Well, it seems to me that it'd be something that, if they wanted to get rid of it, that we could preserve, and maybe, I don't know if the day will come that there's a.
How big are they? Are they like 4x8 sheets of plywood, or, I mean, I have no idea. I don't frame of reference.
They were over the doors.
Some cases are about 6 feet wide, some cases over double doors, and then an arching circle over it. The other pieces are some that are more, probably more than the words.
Could be put out on the ground.
That one could be put anywhere.
Yeah.
Some of them are specific to the middle school, but that one could
Yeah.
be put like anywhere.
In answer to your question, Dr. Hammack, I think that we'd like to preserve them, and not, we don't know yet what to do with them, but.
And this is something, Jason, not for the new building.
I just don't know where to put it.
Yeah.
Honestly, we did talk about trying to incorporate it in originally, but did not feel I was shooting for that.
Well,
I know Carol was very
Yeah. Is that who reached out to me? Was it Carol?
Carol's a high school art teacher, so I don't know who reached out to me.
Yeah, I think that's right. That it's beautiful work. It's gorgeous.
And the community, when we first started this whole process,
Yeah.
that was one more piece of
I know
the
that's
nostalgia.
yeah. I know we were able to do some of that in our last district. We had some. They built a new middle school, and we were able to keep some of the signage off of it, and it was beautiful
Part of the
brick
history.
or stone signage. It was gorgeous. It's gorgeous.
I mean, even if we could put it in the walls in here.
Well, that's why I said the education one
Yeah.
could belong
You know.
anywhere.
Right.
So we can.
We could decide later.
I guess what I hear the board saying to me is yeah, like
If possible.
there you go, is to go and look at this and come back with some ideas, some options for the board. Is that accurate?
Sure.
Okay. And once, real quickly, then we have. I'm going to be asking the board to give me the go-ahead on the to move forward with our architect on a design on that ADA restroom over at Mr. Link's building. And I've attached that information for the board for as an action item. Again, we've got a situation where we have, students, special needs, special services students that need access for because of their handicap condition. They need they need direct access to a restroom. They also need a changing facility and a lift arm, and we,
And have the folks over there been involved in the design of the?
Yeah, I've worked with Lisa Meagle on that. Lisa's worked with her staff on that. Mr. Link's been part of that. Mr. Bailey's been part of those discussions. Yes. And really what I'm recommending right now is we just, there's several options on that agreement, and I'm just recommending that we do the first option only, where the architect goes out and actually does the planning for us. And that's all our architect is recommending at this time. Okay? All right. So I talked a long time. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Hammack. Any more questions for Dr. Hammack? Dr. Brasco, do you have any more comments?
I think I'm good, except for you do have a document in your packet from our wellness grant. So as we tie out the planning phase, there's some data that you might just kind of cruise through. We went through some of that data at our first district accountability meeting on Thursday night.
Thank you, Dr. Frasco. Mr. Lee.
Just a couple things. I'll start off with the good news first. Have your monthly financial statements in there. Really, for the first month of the year, there's not a whole lot of insight there, I guess. I can sure answer any questions, but I would like you to spin over to page 14. You all there?
Almost.
This is just a summary of our cash allocations by fund. It's a reconciliation process of the GL balance to the actual bank statement balances, and then we, of course, track our reconciling items. You can see where our cash is spread between Wells Fargo, our bond indebtedness at Wells Trust, CSAFE, Cala Trust, and then smaller dollars, local banks. We ended in July is probably almost our richest month because we've just collected all of our property taxes, and we've only got the first month of expenditures out, so our total cash at the end of July was 17,565,000 spread through those different investment components. That's partly why you saw a tick up in investment income this last year. We just have a little more cash to invest. Interest rates have come up a little bit as well. So I'm trying to keep a balance between ColoTrust, CSAFE, and Wells Fargo. ColoTrust and CSAFE are definitely a higher earning portfolio than Wells Fargo. But just thought that might be a quick insight to RE3 cash. The other thing, I just want to give you an update on the Head Start building construction. Do you want me to continue with that discussion? Small dilemma. It was only in the $20,000 range, but we went through a fairly elaborate review process with the board on the debating whether we do the asphalt parking lot or upgrade to the concrete, and then do we take out certain kind of utility easement concrete pads out of there, and do we go with the gravel or the concrete on that new east lot? But then we have to have an 8-inch component for the fire truck. But then we submit some alternative data because of our soil quality of work, that the city accepted 6 inches of concrete instead of the 8, and that was a board approved about $40,000 to do that. So we're going through the process, and the first parking lot's in, and it looks great. I mean, the new concrete parking lot there on the north. As we move into the east parking lot, if you recall the dilemma, and this one was I'm trying to remember, but it was a pretty big number, but the soil design document said 2 foot over X, but it was really 6 foot over X where the building was, so they dug 2 foot and determined they had to dig 6, so they had to dig out another 4 feet of dirt. Of course, that was bid at 2, not 6, so that was, I think that was a $40-some thousand hiccup. Well, the proposal that came to us for approval of the east parking lot with the concrete versus the gravel with the concrete and strip, but reduced to the 6 to the 8. The dilemma is that the same problem didn't carry over to that the excavation didn't include the 2 foot excavation to get that component of that clayish dirt out of that parking lot. So to get the concrete all in there, but then to get the concrete at only 6 inches instead of the 8 inches for the fire truck compaction issue had to be based on the quality of the compaction of the base material under the 6-inch concrete. That was not included in that price. So we got a $22,000 haircut for the additional compaction for that east parking lot. Any questions?
Is this building ever going to be done?
Heck, we haven't even talked about that.
Had a meeting since you've had it here last week.
The new date, it was August, then it was September, then it was the end of September. Now the actual date is October 19th, I believe, is the date.
So we can expect to open in December.
Well,
October 19th.
October 19th, and so the Head Start folks are continuing with their in-home visits. That's been a total jam for Marcia, to say the least, trying to continue that process. We have, ironically, we have a change order request from the contractor, which anytime you extend the number of days, then there's a general conditions cost because they got superintendents on board and their ongoing overhead costs. So we're in review of those change orders where they're proposing additional costs because of those extension delays. Some of that was permit things, but there's some other things that we feel are not RE3's dime. So we're reviewing those, and we'll keep you updated on that process. We have not reached a conclusion on that, but theoretically we should be in there on the 29th or the 19th of October. questions?
Does that mean we're not doing our tour on October 1st?
That's a good question.
But the good news is things are really moving along. I mean, once they kind of got the skin going and the interior walls are really going to town now, you're starting to see some pretty significant improvements on the inside of the building. It's going to go pretty quick now. You heard it here. And we did get the, you saw the memo about, but the inspection did happen, and on Monday, and then preschool started last week, so that was good news. So kindergarten's full speed, preschool's full speed. Now if we just kind of wrap up the building, then Head Start can get going, and then we can be done.
So no tour on October 1st for our board meeting.
It might be interesting to go see some of the site and see kind of what's going on. And
So it's still on.
I'm sorry?
It's still on, the October 1st.
To be determined.
Yeah, I think that'd be worth a road trip over there, see
So
where you're.
Do we meet there prior to 7 o'clock? So
I
that
think
we're
it's
back
at
here by
6:30.
7?
Yeah.
Yeah, probably leave you an hour to the time you get travel time and stuff. And
So 6 o'clock.
Sounds like a good plan. Okay.
I'm not objective, but there's a lot of cool things going on in that building anyway. So you can see the new split of the preschool rooms, and then take a quick outside and interior view of the new wing addition.
Sounds good.
That's all I have.
All right, thank you, Mike. I did have one question looking through the checks. I see a check to Dakota Truck Underwriters. Is that the new workers' comp?
That's correct.
Okay. How's that working out?
It's been great.
Yeah, they're great. They have a wonderful website to utilize. We'll have all sorts of training. Our first safety committee meeting is coming up this Thursday, and I'll present that to our safety committee and those resources. But we haven't had very many claims, knock on wood, and those that we have had have gone really smooth.
That's good to hear. Okay. All right, moving on. I guess it's your turn, Mr. Boyer.
All right, I wanted to spend just a bit of time on vacancies and hires, and I won't belabor this anymore, but September payroll is kind of the culmination of a summer of really hard work. And I want to personally thank Bev for her help in that process. Since May 7th, when we hired our first teacher, we have hired 111 new personnel at the district. Roughly, I just wanted to give you an idea of what that looks like. 52 certified staff, so that's teachers, including counselors and a SLPA certified, speech language pathology assistant. We've hired 5 office staff. As far as subs, 6 certified subs, 4 classified subs, 4 drivers, 19 teacher assistants, 4 custodians, 1 facilities person, 2 children's center individuals, 2 cooks, 1 step-by-step person, and 11 coaches. So we've been busy, and I will stop talking about the summer after this meeting, and then we'll just focus on going forward. But we do have a lot of job postings still out there, too many to count, but I've appreciated the principals and the administration's patience with that process of getting new people on board. So just wanted to give you kind of a update. That's about 20% of our staff that we have replaced, which is not only sad, but necessary, and we hope to find ways to retain those staff going forward. I think money will be the key, so look at your ballot in the fall. All right, next thing I wanted to talk about is the stipend list. This looks different than what you've seen in the past, and again, I want to thank Bev for her work on this. The typical things that you see on the stipend list would be the sports and clubs, and they're listed there in my report, and then they're below under the action items as well. But the high school has $188,000 in those sports and club stipends, anything from department heads to student clubs and services, performance arts, all the sports stuff that you would imagine. And then middle school has a total of $56,000 in those sports and clubs type stipends. Lincoln has a whopping $1,300, and they do a yearbook stipend. And then we have a music coordinator that's technically a district stipend. So all told, those sports and club stipends are about $246,000. And my guess is that's all you've seen in the past. As I looked at last year, that was about the amount last year, give or take. The kind of the more important thing I wanted to show you, and in talking to Dr. Hammock, we felt it was important to be completely transparent, but the other list is the miscellaneous stipends, we'll call them, but they include the differential pay for psychologists, the special ed teachers. You recall you approved that earlier in the summer. That's $57,000 just for that. The speech language pathologists get a differential that totals $25,000. I did want to show you the extended calendar days of staff. That's $37,000. Couple new stipends that I'd like to talk to you about and ultimately get your approval on in the action items section. But we did implement a lead nurse stipend for one nurse to kind of oversee that process. We added a stipend for an interim transportation director, as we have not filled that position, and we have our head mechanic filling in, so that's $1,500. Then this is the new one, instructional coaches. I'd like to propose adding that to the stipend list in the amount of $28,000. We have several instructional coaches that definitely work a lot of hours, kind of above and beyond their normal contract pay. To put this into perspective, we had one instructional coach stipend last year for one of the coaches, and that totaled $13,000 alone. I'm not sure how that came about. I wasn't here when that came about, but in terms of equity and fairness, that was a little troublesome. So we spread the wealth a bit, added those instructional coach stipends. So that is something completely new. And then the stipends that you approved last fall for the AP courses and the concurrent courses, those are also listed to the tune of $4,000 for AP courses, $4,500 for the concurrent courses. And that's a list from the high school, and I think it's pretty exact as to what you would expect those folks to get. And then besides those new instructional coach stipends, the nurse lead stipend, there are two additional new stipends, one for the CPP executive director in the tune of $4,000, and then one for the Head Start executive director, also in the tune of $4,000 for the additional duties that go with those jobs. So all told, our stipend list is about $475,000, split pretty evenly between sports and clubs and then the other miscellaneous stipends. And so I wanted to just answer any questions that you may have about any of those.
So I know it wasn't broken down this way before, comprehensive, and I really like this, and thank you for that, all the work everybody put into that. What's the overall increase in our stipends this year, or just those areas that you just mentioned?
So I didn't do a percentage, but if Mike will help me.
No, not percentage, but just.
You have the do you want me to start at the concurrent enrollment stipends that we did last fall?
I was trying to remember, because I remember those, I think, came out that we had to.
So if Mike, I don't know if you have a calculator handy.
No, you don't have to calculate, and I didn't know if you had that.
I bet it's about a 10% increase is my guess between the concurrent enrollment, AP, instructional coach, and then the few lead stipends.
If I have to make an on-the-fly calculation, there should be a stipend for them.
Only if it's right.
I'll get up and get you a cookie.
Your stipend.
Already had 3.
Your stipend is getting to work with me. That's what I figured.
Mike, from a budgetary standpoint, there's pretty much all these stipends were anticipated in our current budget. Am I thinking right?
Yeah, I have those in there. There are some new ones on here that we didn't know about in June when we adopted the budget. So when we do our our final budget amendment, we'll have to update that for, and plus, position ads that we've had since then. So, the new budget revision is gonna be kind of interesting. Pupil count way up, so that'll be just interesting to see what the new numbers are.
All right. Well, thank you for the information. Moving on, we are the discussion items. We should go very quickly on. Policy readings. Dr. Hammack already went over the policies that we are going over for the first reading. Several new policies there, as well as policies for the second reading. Just one policy there. Moving on to our consent agenda, we have a personnel action report and a list of checks.
Move to accept the consent agenda.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Okay. Go ahead and vote then.
Derek Gergen,
I'm abstaining because there's a check to my agency and the list of checks.
Terry Lapp, aye. Trish McLean,
Aye.
Todd Schneider,
Aye.
Lauren Sharp,
Aye.
Melissa Smith,
Aye.
Connie Weingarten.
Aye.
Okay, motion passes. Next action item next on the agenda is action items. Action item A is consideration to approve policies on Board of Education Recording Secretary for its reading. It's the pleasure of the board.
Move to approve.
Okay.
A second?
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Okay. Roll call.
Derek Gergen,
Aye.
Terry Lapp, aye. Trish McLean,
Aye.
Todd Schneider,
Aye.
Lauren Sharp,
Aye.
Melissa Smith,
Aye.
Connie Weingarten.
Aye.
Okay, motion passes. Next action item is action item B, to consideration to approve several policies, AC-E-1 through AC in the first reading. What is the pleasure of the board on those?
I move we approve.
Do we need to list all those when we do the motion?
No, but on the first reading.
Oh, Dr. Hammack?
Yeah, I had a question.
Yes. Yes.
Can we approve policies on the first reading?
We're not approving the policy.
You're not approving the policy. You're approving just the reading of the first reading. The way I view this and the way I did it in my other district is then I'll bring them back for a second reading if, when you get a chance to look at them again, if there's any changes, I'm going to try to present them in a different form the next time. I thought that was kind of confusing the way I did that, just to highlight the changes. But the way I'm used to doing it is you approve a first reading, you approve a second reading, and then your third reading is an adoption.
Okay.
That's how I've
Gotcha.
done it.
Okay.
So you're not approving the final form till the
approving
adoption
the
reading, the third
consideration.
reading.
Okay.
And it just gives the board a chance to say, hey, I know we approved it the first reading last time. I went back and re-looked at it. I need more clarification on this issue.
Thank you. Did we have a second on that one?
No.
Second. So we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Okay, we'll go to roll call.
Derek Gergen,
Aye.
Terry Lapp, aye. Trish McLean,
Aye.
Todd Schneider,
Aye.
Lauren Sharp,
Aye.
Melissa Smith,
Aye.
Connie Weingarten.
Aye.
Okay, motion
I
passes.
apologize for the lack of clarity on that.
Consideration, action item C, consideration to approve policies on the second reading, just one policy there, ADF. What's the pleasure of the board?
Move to approve.
Okay.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Okay, roll call.
Derek Gergen,
Aye.
Terry Lapp, aye. Trish McLean,
Aye.
Todd Schneider,
Aye.
Lauren Sharp,
Aye.
Melissa Smith,
Aye.
Connie Weingarten.
Aye.
Motion passes. Next item is action item D, consideration to approve accreditation.
I move to approve the accreditation.
Okay. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
A motion and a second. Any discussion? Okay. Roll call.
Derek Gergen.
Aye.
Terry Lapp. Aye. Trish McLean.
Aye.
Todd Schneider.
Aye.
Lauren Sharp.
Aye.
Melissa Smits.
Aye.
Connie Weingarten.
Aye.
Motion passes. Next action item is action item E, consideration to approve handicap restroom facility, clothing health table, and lift arm apparatus for IDEA area at Pioneer Elementary School. And this is, we're just approving.
You're approving task 1 only at, and that's just the schematic design. That's at $2,400. That's the only task you're approving.
Okay.
And I think in the motion you should say that, task 1 only.
Okay. Somebody like to make that motion as,
I move we approve task 1.
okay. Is there a second?
Second.
A motion and a second. Any discussion? Okay, roll call.
Derek Gergen.
Aye.
Terry Lapp. Aye. Trish McLean.
Aye.
Todd Schneider.
Aye.
Lauren Sharp.
Aye.
Melissa Smits.
Aye.
Connie Weingarten.
Aye.
Okay, motion passes.
And Derek, if I can, or Mr. Gerken, if I can say the reason behind that is our plan is to do that construction work internally, to not go out and get a firm. Mr. Bailey's planning on doing that. So when I spoke with the architect, he said, Dr. Hemick, we don't need those other tasks as a result of that.
And now action item F, consideration to approve the district stipend list.
I move to approve the district stipend list as presented.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Okay, roll call.
Derek Gergen.
Aye.
Terry Lapp. Aye. Trish McLean.
Aye.
Todd Schneider.
Aye.
Lauren Sharp.
Aye.
Melissa Smits.
Aye.
Connie Weingarten.
Aye.
Motion passes. That concludes the action items. Next we have advanced planning. Our next regular meeting is October 1st at 7 p.m. with, just as a special note, meeting at 6 o'clock over at Sherman. Upcoming events, October 15th and upcoming meetings, October 15th and November 5th. That brings us to executive session. We can have a motion.
I move that the board move into executive session for the purpose of receiving legal advice on specific legal questions pursuant to CRS 246402 subsection 4B. I'd like to invite Dr. Hammock, Mike Lee, Jason Frasco, and Mike Bailey to attend the executive session with the board.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to go into executive session as stated. Is there any discussion? Okay, we'll proceed to roll call.
Derek Gergen.
Aye.
Terry Lapp. Aye. Trish McLean.
Aye.
Todd Schneider.
Aye.
Lauren Sharp.
Aye.
Melissa Smits.
Aye.
Connie Weingarten.
Aye.
Motion passes.
We need to do B.
Okay. Would you like to make that motion?
Move to approve we go into executive session to discuss personnel matters per CRS 24-6-402, parentheses 4, parentheses F. Along with that, I'd like to invite Dr. Hammock
Michael Boyer.
and Mike Boyer.
I'll second that.
Motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Okay, seeing none, we'll proceed to roll call.
Derek Gergen.
Aye.
Terry Lapp. Aye. Trish McLean.
Aye.
Todd Schneider.
Aye.
Lauren Sharp.
Aye.
Melissa Smits.
Aye.
Connie Weingarten.
Aye.
Okay. Motion passes. We will adjourn and re-adjourn into executive session.